Welcome to The Sound of Succession. I'm Jamie East.
And I am Chris Mandle.
And you are joining us at very early. I think this is our earliest record yet on a bank holiday Monday.
Earliest episode ever. We just had to... We wanted to get something out early because of the bank holiday, because a lot of people will be watching this episode early.
Exactly.
Because most of us have got the day off.
We'll still be after we finish saluting our king.
Yes. I'll be saluting the whole time. We're on, just out of pure national pride.
I know.
Did you watch any of the coronation?
I saw. I saw our king get crowned whilst I was in an atrium cafe, waiting for my son to finish his drama class. And just at the moment that the crown was lowered onto his head, some daft woman stood up, walked over, took in front of the television to take a photograph of it with her phone. So
great.
That's going to be my everlasting life. I watched it it was kind of interesting to watch. I'm not a royalist by any stretch of the imagination, but it's kind of one of those things where I was alive when this happened, kind of thing. I thought the concert last night was pretty appalling though, right?
I didn't see any of it. Didn't even see anyone talking about the concert.
You
frankly,
dodged a bullet.
We didn't watch that. I saw some of the coronation on the screen in the lobby of a Hilton hotel because I was in Canterbury for the weekend at a family wedding.
Oh wow! Oh good.
Well, it was like a sort of it's my brother's in-laws at that side of the family. We were just there for the do. So we were sort of to-ing and fro-ing during the day and went through the lobby of the Hilton and saw about 4 seconds of the coronation. It looked fine.
You got the whole gist of it.
Speaking of king-making...
Oh, good segue. Check that out.
That was all happening in this episode of Succession. We had the Tailgate Party, kind of like an election night.
Yes, the polls were 10 hours before the polls were due to open. Before the voting was allowed to open. Yeah. Which is kind of a weird. Normally
weird
in the UK, in the UK you have election night parties. Maybe it's because they're all probably working on election night, I guess. Which is why Tom probably.
Yeah, and I think also isn't it's they're celebrating the beginning of the
cycle.
Voting. Yeah. I guess because elections do take a lot longer for them to tally up, and they're all done differently, sort of in certain states, aren't they? It's all quite
still
complicated.
Very confusing. Even after all the furore of the 2020, I still don't really understand the whole college vote system and blah blah blah. It's pretty complicated.
One of those things that when you see it written down, I had to learn a little bit about it when I was studying, when I did my journalism qualification. We did British
drop
first
there.
Post.
I don't know if anyone else caught that. Chris has got a journalism qualification.
NCTJ qualified, baby. But you do learn a bit about politics. And I remember what I learned about US voting is that when you see it written down, how it works, it just blows your mind that someone thought, this is a good way to decide something this
is a simple black and white way of working out who should be the leader of the free
Do you know, like... Sometimes if someone is explaining like a game show to you that either you've not watched or it's in like Norway.
Sticks. It's Quizzle sticks.
And they're like, it's really straightforward. So every narc has a bluegun and every 3 times, except when it happens 5 times, it goes over here. And you're like, who came up with this?
I am that with every board game ever.
Yeah.
Like Uno, I get the gist of it. I'm not interested in the intricacies of it. But yeah. So okay, right. We are waffling a bit. So let's get. You said just before before we hit record that lots of individual bits were really, really interesting.
Yeah.
You weren't kind of blown away by the whole arc of it. Is that safe to say?
I think I'm gonna just come out the blocks and say it.
Go on.
Not my favourite episode. My least favourite episode of the season. I think it's one of the weaker episodes
It felt
generally on the whole, I think,
Yeah.
save for obviously there's amazing character moments, not denying
yeah.
people smashed it, but it was kind of felt like going through the motions a bit. You know, you sort of know the general layout of where this episode is going to go.
I think it was a regroup. It's kind of set us up for the final trimester of episodes. I think the final kind of trilogy of episodes. I think let's go through the main kind of heartbeats. Where Matsson is kind of exposed a little bit as a bit of an emperor with no clothes. Tom is in all sorts of trouble with his job. He's clearly, no one wants to keep him at top of ATN. ATN as a kind of whole just seems to be absolutely just despised by both sides. And the big showdown between Shiv and Tom was obviously the emotional kind of
outstanding
emotional heartbeat of it. But yeah, it was pretty good in terms, like you say, lots of individual kind of really scenes to kind of salivate over, but not huge development in terms of other than the fact, like the final bit between Frank and Ken, it's, the curtain is pulled back and we see what the final gameplay is going to be, and that is going to be that Ken is going to try and just take the whole thing for himself and buy Gojo.
So we got a tease of this in the preview, which we watched on last week's
Reverse
pod,
Viking.
Reverse Viking is actually damage Gojo.
I think we might have guessed. Did we guess it?
I don't know. I was a little shocked when I saw it. So they want to make Gojo so shit that they can acquire it. Not because they understand the business, not because they want to add this to their portfolio, purely just out of spite, out of, it's...
Yeah,
I saw a lot of this episode. It was a very sort of Jurassic approach to business, which was like, I'm going to eat you because you might eat me. Like, there's a lot of like, looking after oneself on pure principles. They don't want Gojo at all. They don't want to have to deal with the subscriber fallout where it turns out that Lucas has doubled the amount of people that are subscribing in India.
Yeah. Packing peanuts.
They don't want to have to actually... Yeah. They haven't got a way of dealing with that. They haven't got a strategy. They just think, well, we want to get rid of you. We don't like you.
Yeah, I think acquiring Gojo is the only real way that they'll get rid of Matsson in the eyes of the board.
It's just to fuck him over, right?
Yeah.
You love this thing. I'm going to take it off you and break it.
Well, I saw it as a plan B after Ken realised that the
Oh, I see.
I saw it as a kind of like, right, he scrabbled around a bit, and this was his next play, because he originally trying to get rid of Matsson through the regulatory. That was the whole kind of thing with Shiv, Roman, and Ken kind of going off and schmoozing the 40 tastemakers and mouthpieces of the nation. And when that failed, when Nate basically, there was that great, in fact, here, this is what happened.
Don't play hall monitor with me, bro. Right? I know you. I know who you are, my friend.
I don't know what you think this is. I'm not Gil. You're not Logan. That's a good thing.
So yeah, we saw a slight return from Nate, and that was the moment where he realised that actually, everyone else has moved on. Everyone else has seized Logan's death as an opportunity to wipe the slate clean, whereas Kendall's very much kind of like, the slate's still filthy, it's just that I'm in charge of the slate now. So I saw the whole Matsson play as him kind of like, right, that's clearly not going to work. How else can I get rid of this guy, given the fact I've just had a stand-up, very weird argument with him in front of everyone.
Yeah, the vibes at this party, it was, everything did get quite deranged as the evening went on, and everyone was drinking more of Tom's, don't call it German wine.
Sophisticated.
Yeah, it started off, we saw the opening, it was everyone arriving, paparazzi, getting out of their town cars, it's all kind of very glitzy. And then by the end, everyone is arguing, shouting at one another. People are having... The coat room seemed to be I mean, people say the kitchen is where these parties pop off. The coat room was where all the deals were happening.
Amazing. There were also far more than 40 coats in that. I don't know the set designers. I don't know if you had a look at that. There were like, what, 40 people in that house? You walk into that coat room, there were at least 150 coats in there.
Maybe I just loved that they were sort
cleaning.
of like, not just in rows. There was like a sort of interior corridor of coats, which I just...
great.
If you were a kid and you like running around in coat rooms...
Oh,
that would be absolutely great.
So
yeah, there's 1% as Narnia in there. I just thought, so just to get back to some of my kind of criticisms, was kind of like, I just felt the show relies on the same mechanisms to work, and that's fine. Like, we love Succession, but I felt like the feedback loop was kind of, I just wasn't getting as much. Like, I also think first real time, I think there's a real Logan-shaped hole in this, because it's kind of fun to watch everything falling apart, but when you have Logan, there was always this sense that there was an adult in the room, and now there isn't. It does feel a little, just a bit kind of, I'm going to say aimless at times.
We're not Succession shill by any stretch.
We're not affiliated with HBO.
We're not affiliated with HBO, but look, we're not. I thought more of it than you, which is. I take what you say. I just always saw it as a bit of a regroup, and had to kind of like almost put the whole dad's dead thing to bed, so to speak. Even though we did have that that bit at the beginning where it was like this.
I just came from seeing Pop.
Wow, again?
Yeah. Oh, any change?
Looking good. Yeah. Woke up on the right side of the coffin today, boy.
So,
I love that.
Just a little reminder of that breakfast meeting where they had the best table in the best breakfast place in Manhattan. No one ate or drank a thing, and it lasted for at least 90 seconds. Do you think they started to pay for that table?
Oh my god, yeah. I wonder if people that rich just have a constant we have that table on, just charge us a monthly fee.
Probably. But we just got a little reminder from Connor that the funeral is looming, and it sets up
looming,
the fact that, again, like prepping. So there was that thing I put up on Twitter that someone had spotted the titles of the show, of the episodes. So we think that next week is the election, and episode 9 is the funeral.
Yes, you did share that. That's very, very interesting.
Thanks to Mad Bambi for spotting that. So
Connor, the detail I loved in this, Connor has been visiting, checking in on Logan's body, and none of the kids have. Which is the thing you do. Yeah. This is the thing that people do. You go and, if you're looking after them. Well, I guess Connor has a bit more time on his hands than most of us. But he was very interesting this episode. We found out that he was almost getting towards 3 to 4%, to the point where he was becoming a potential problem for Mencken.
For Mencken, yeah. He needed that.
Jared Mencken, not Alan Mencken, as I misnamed a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so some things worked. Maybe it was the wedding with the brass band. But it was, it put Connor in a weird position of power over Roman for the first time, and allowed, like, one of my favourite moments was the Connor bite back. So let's talk about that. So he became a problem for Mencken. Mencken thought to himself, right, if this guy just fucking concedes, they will all. Connor's probably more right than left. They'll all fall to Mencken's wayside, and he wanted that to happen before votes opened, so that people voted for Mencken rather than him just drop out and those votes just get washed away, I presume.
Yes. I think.
And then Connor gets a bit of a taste of like, okay, this is. He seemed as though he kind of expected it. But then they were just like arguing over the most ludicrous kind of like ambassadorial. What were they offering him? Like an ambassador role?
Mencken's team
like
offered him an ambassadorial position to a country, and this is the brilliant thing about Connor, and I think the thing that is so true to someone like that. He gets offered a job. He is unqualified for, and he wants one of the countries in the top 10 GDPs in the world
with nukes.
He's like, yeah, I don't want anything that doesn't have nukes. Doesn't want what they offered him, like
Mogadishu.
Yeah,
he got offered Mogadishu at first, then it was Oman.
In a compound. He got offered Oman was the compound where Willa
Is it
asked,
above-
will
is
it
it
be
above
above ground? And the house they were going to stay in was called the Pearl of Arabia.
So there were flashes of brilliance. Oh.
It was, and it's funny. Like, he's always been the joke, but it just kind of, it does feel. I think I said on season 3, I was like, Connor being a politician, like they're trying to do a Trump thing, and they didn't. They did something so much smarter, which is someone who thinks he might be the next Trump.
Yeah,
and isn't. But everything does hit with him. Yeah. Everything about Willa being like, all my family like hate Mencken, and Connor being like, look, he doesn't even know why he wants to go, but it's just that proximity to power is just more than.
It's the sense that there was a glimmer of people taking him seriously. That's what it was, I think. It's like,
that's it.
I've got a little seat. I've got a tiny little seat at the table. It's right at the end.
Yeah.
It's got a bag of crisps and a Coke. But I'm at the table nonetheless. And what I felt about that whole thing was that I think it was showing that Willa has got what she deserved.
Yeah.
What she be careful what you wish for. Yeah, you've got all the money. Yeah, you've even now got a bit of power, but you're at the Pearl of Arabia compound in Oman, and all of your family are going to hate that you sold your soul, not only for Connor's hand in marriage, but that he's now sold to Mencken. And
Willa, there's an element of her being like, well, what's he going to do? Divorce me? Like, I'm going to speak up for this. You need me. You've got your first lady now. And this is what and I love that because it's really discreet. They've not been in. I don't think they were even in last week's episode.
No, they weren't.
They use Willa very smartly, and I think 2 things. She's developed very discreetly into like a very smart, fascinating person on the show. She was a punching bag. She's now in a position where she's got quite a lot of capital. She's got quite a lot of power. Mm-hmm. The other person that I was really intrigued by this week was Greg.
Yeah. Why?
Firstly, we go in and we see him lay off, I don't know, like 100 people at ATN.
Here we go. This was great.
There's no easy way of doing this. I've done this a couple of times this week, and sometimes, honestly, it just makes me cry.
It was like the sadder version of Kerry's audition tape, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was awful. And Tom's thing, even when he's being like, the corporate bastard, he still goes, oh, it makes me so upset. Like, he's so wet. So he gets Greg to do the layoffs. Greg reads off the script. Now, I've been in those calls. I'm sure you've been in those calls in any media company where they go, oh, guys, the only way we can move forward as a company is to get rid of all of you and terminate all of you and like all the people that are like 7 months pregnant, you're going to get laid off from. So,
think about how hard this is for the company.
We've looked at every option, and this.
By the way, your passwords no longer work. We've literally just.
When Shortlist, very brief aside on this, when Shortlist closed, which was in 2018, it literally came out of nowhere, right?
Oh, I remember. And it was actually really.
There was a meeting put in at. We usually got in at 9:30. There was a meeting put in for like 11. I was not in that morning because I went to a screening of the film Can You Ever Forgive Me, which is the Melissa McCarthy one. So the plot of this film, if you haven't seen it, I'm just going to tell you the overarching idea. Melissa McCarthy plays a writer who is past her prime and she can't get work, so she starts selling forged letters from notable authors, right?
That's right.
Claiming they're real. She starts making a ton of money, and it gets a bit hairy. The whole idea of this film is really about a writer from another era trying to find their relevance in a world that doesn't want them. And I'm sitting there in the screening at 9:30 a.m. with my filter coffee, with my nice job in a magazine, thinking, man, I'm so lucky I'm doing my job in this era, and I'm not one of these people that, is like from a bygone era trying to find work. Leave the screening, go to the office. Everyone is on the pavements, on their phones, crying, and they're like, they just closed the magazine. And I was like, I didn't hear the announcement because I was too busy going to a film, watching this basically play out a generation ago.
Oh my
All
God.
of which is to say, these calls are awful. And Greg did what all of them do, which is read off a script, show no remorse, and get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
And I thought that's just a funny, Cousin Greg's a complete corporate like shill or whatever.
Yeah,
but we saw it play off because when he was trying to like hang out with Lucas at the party, they were sort of impressed with, as they called him, the Slim Reaper. His apparent doofusness mixed with his ability to stab you in the back. And I thought that is really like interesting for Greg. Suddenly he's kind of parrying with the big dogs and he's being blasé about laying off all these poor people. So I thought that was very, very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't get that from that scene. I just thought that they were still taking the piss out of him, Oscar and Lucas. Like Oscar was being a dickhead. Oscar was stoned on edibles. Ebba was just like fuming in a brilliant Scandinavian way.
I think Greg could be useful to them in a way that none of the other Roy family members are.
Maybe he'll be offered ATN by Lucas.
I could see him just joining some corner of Lucas's company and just getting a big payout. The other thing I could equally see is by next week he has completely shoved that foot in his mouth and fucked things up for himself. But I'll tell you who else played a blinder this episode. We didn't see a lot of her, but Jerry.
Oh, it was a great scene.
I am sad that there's a feeling that she's winding down on the show, but I love that she decided that this firing was going to stick. You know, Roman...
she could quite easily have just taken. Well, I think she has clearly just been playing this game all along. She's kept everything. She's kept her own counsel, and she said it all there in like literally one breath, didn't she? I'm coming. I've got crisis. Kind of like PR people,
reputation management.
I've got this, I've got that. I'm coming after you for hundreds of millions of dollars, and if you say anything untoward about me over the next 5 years, I will unleash a torrent of dick pics.
She's smart. I think, I don't think she's she's clearly no fool. I think this does feel. This has been ever since Logan died. I think this has been the play. I think she's figured out, look, these kids are morons.
Yeah.
They're never going to look out for me.
Yeah.
They're never going to... All I can do is get the deal through. And then I think when Roman sort of turned on her last episode, she realised, like, I'm going to have to get my nukes out. These people, the C-suite, people think of them as sort of quite pushovery. They are some of the most connected people in corporate America.
They are all. It's easy to forget. We saw Carl with his Greek island. They're all multi millionaires in their own rights. They even though they're like number 2 or number 3, they're still, like you say, top of the tree in terms of corporate America. But at the end, Frank very quickly was like, Ken, I'm not listening. Yada yada yada. I'm not listening. Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, we'll talk about Kendall. He now is even pushing Shiv and Roman out.
Yeah.
And I think he's sort of starting to understand something that Lucas understands, something that Logan understood, which is it's actually not about planning one win. It's about planning 50 wins and hoping that 2 of them
land
work.
Yeah.
Lucas we really saw the mask slip because it turns out he's been, bluffing his numbers, but he seems utterly nonplussed about it because I think he's like, look, I make shit up. Sometimes things work. Sometimes they don't. Law of averages, I win. And I think the kids don't really understand that.
I thought Lucas actually he just exposed. I didn't see that confidence in him at all. I thought he panicked. His whole demeanour change.
Yeah.
Skarsgård played a blinder again. Plays him so well. He just really embodies that thing. And when Shiv kind of said to him, and he was like, "Oh, you mean India?" His whole posture kind of changed. And, but I think he knows that he's kind of screwed, and the whole kind of like swagger which is why he came out swinging for Kendall when they had that kind of set to in the kind of lounge. I think he's a lot more hurt than a lot more wounded by Ebba, because he was like he's expected it. You know, when Shiv cornered him, he was like, "Oh, Ebba, Oscar, which one was it?"
Yeah.
You know,
well, that's the thing I thought was interesting was when she said, "Look, I know about the numbers," and he's like, "Did Ebba tell you what Oscar?" Like, even Oscar's probably been blabbing about it, but I guess the reason he seems so rattled is this is the first time we've really seen him out of his comfort zone. Like, he's in their patch. Yeah. Which I think is probably...
It's kind of like, what is it? Oh, it's just money and gossip. It's just money. I get it. It's like... It's quite autistic in his approach to how he does things. And he's like, I see. If I'm nice to them... which is ironic because he took the mick out of Shiv a couple of episodes where he's like, so if I give them more money, then the deal goes through. Like, and now he's like, I get it. I just have to be nice to these people, and they do nice things. That's kind of...
It was very clever as well, I thought, just the pure, like, fashion, turning up in that sort of gold bomber jacket. Like,
gold leather, leopard skin bomber
kind
jacket.
of, it was almost like crocodile skin or something, and it was like...
Just a quick shout out to the Instagram account, Succession in Fashion. Do you follow this?
No, I'm going to follow them now.
Oh my God, it's amazing. So they go through every single outfit that every single person wears and tells you where it's from and what brand it is and how much it cost. Like from sunglasses to jumpers to everything. And what's really interesting is Matsson's stuff is all really cheap. He just kind of like wears relatively cheap. So like... Right. He wears like Adidas tracksuits and Falk Ravkin. What's that brand?
Oh, with the fox logo.
All of that knitwear on top of the mountain was from that, and they're like $150 a jumper. Whereas like Kendall's is all like $9,000 cashmere.
Oh, this is great. Yeah, so Matsson was in Adidas track pants
for the
Jerry, Alexander McQueen, Shiv.
It's great.
Ralph Lauren. Wow. Oh, this is brilliant.
It's such a good Instagram account.
This is interesting. Cousin Greg at the retreat was wearing Uniqlo.
There you go. He starts to shop.
I would wear that. 50 quid. Love. Okay, this is great. So yeah, if anyone listening who wants to follow, it is Succession Fashion.
Yeah.
And they said no, they don't do interviews. That's a shame. You'd imagine a lot of journalists would be like,
it's probably someone on the staff, to be fair.
Oh, I love that.
Well, it must be, surely. They get it up pretty quickly. You know, it's quite...
Also, how would you... how else would you know? Okay, that's really interesting. No, I thought this episode generally was... the political stuff is sort of constantly in the background. That's why we had Nate come back, who was Shiv's fling. She having an affair with him in season 1.
It was really clever bringing him back because it did two things. It undermined Ken's plan for kind of like doing the deal and, hey, we'll give you an easy ride for the first 100 days. It's like, oh, Mr. President, you do spoil me. But it also, the whole arc of, if there was an arc in this episode, it was the demasculation of Tom and bringing him literally to breaking point, and Nate was a great kind of way of doing that. And
Nate said something to Kendall where he said, like, I can't be seen here. This isn't good for me. Like, they think they're doing this king-making.
There was that other guy, wasn't there, behind? Who they kept referring to, like another guy that was like, oh.
Well, there was someone else that he was with, but the thing I picked up on was he mentioned Gil, who was the guy that Nate worked for in season 1.
And Shiv.
Yes. And Gil was the older guy that dealt with, him and Logan were like the old boys. And something that Nate did say was like, we're not Logan and Gil. Like, we're not them. And that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. This is the thing that you can do in this. This is a big transitional moment. It's like you can either continue doing things the way they've always been done, or you can see this as a circuit breaker.
Yeah.
Let's not play, not our fathers, because I know Gil's not Nate's father, but let's not do the things that the previous generation has done. Let's try and be better. Let's break the wheel, essentially.
Exactly.
Ken seemed completely thrown by that. It was like, but Dad always does a tailgate party. He always invites these 40 people. So where else do we want to talk? What else do we want to talk about? So we have talked about Jerry. We've talked about Greg.
I think
Roman's a good one to quickly touch on.
Yeah, let's step into Roman. He had a weird one, I think.
All over the place.
he's, I think the phrase that came to my mind, or the phrase that I wrote down, was like, "You fuck about, you get found out," and he is just floundering a bit. He's just not really. He's kind of like, he's tied himself to Mencken, and is being the unofficial kind of like mouthpiece for Mencken, speaking to Connor.
Yes,
which I think is going to play out badly for him.
Definitely,
because even Kendall, I think, we had that scene with his wife, with his ex-wife, Rava. At the beginning, his kids are getting bullied because of ATN. I was raising your daughter while you were running a racist news organizations. I'm across 6 continents to make the world safe. All of that kind of stuff.
And that was just great reminder that like they are in a bubble, but other people feel the effects of their decisions and their behaviour and things.
Precisely. So Roman leaning into Mencken is going to play out badly for him. And then there was the Jerry thing, which was a disaster for him.
Really rattled him
on a personal level and on a professional level. Even though he's got the blessing of Kendall, but I think Kendall is going to use that against him in the next episode. And I thought it was really interesting that he went after the speech at Logan's
I
funeral.
thought that was really interesting that Kendall relinquished it. He was so high off his supply from last week. I thought there was going to be more, but that'll be interesting to explore. Interesting that Roman wants to do it. Kendall's sort of, because he's charting a new course, he doesn't feel the need to be his father's son in that official capacity. Whereas, and Shiv also has got this real sense that she doesn't know whose side she's on. Maybe Roman needs that more than ever because he's tried behaving like his father and it hasn't worked. He said to Jerry, like, Dad fired you all the time. But what Logan didn't do to Jerry was send hundreds of pictures of his genitals. He's kind of realised that there are boundaries. This family is also a business, and there are lots of complicated boundaries that bring to mind for me, like the Mission Impossible, like lasers everywhere. Like everything is meticulously cordoned off. Logan knew how to go down and out and to kind
really
of maneuver.
To navigate through.
The kids are just setting off all kinds of alarms because they can't separate the two.
The sacking thing that you mentioned is interesting because we had that was mirrored by Mattson as well with Oscar. It's like, oh, you sack me all the time, you're not going to sack me. That kind of thing. It happened quite often with Ebba as well, but with Jerry it was kind of like, that's not going to wash with me because I'm old money. And
she's also like, I don't trust you. I'm not getting behind you. You're not a leader. I don't believe this. Logan. Again, like kind of the reason he is missed on this show is that you're like, they always had him playing some kind of game, like some sort of strategy, some kind of system. There was always a sense of order, even in the chaos, even in the insults. And with the kids, there's just not a through line running through any of it. Shiv has really confidently hitched her wagon to Lucas. And she even said in the coat room, boardroom, as I've called it, she even said, look, I want a job out of this. I want the very, 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 very top job. And he kind of was like, yeah, maybe. Yeah. She's kind of realized that like she's nothing to him and he will not even give her what she wants.
I'll tell you what, hold that thought. We're going to go for a break. And when we come back, let's get into the Tom and Shiv balcony scene. Welcome back to The Sound of Succession. We are discussing Season 4, Episode 7. I don't know what the title of it was called. It was just Tailgate Party.
Tailgate Party.
Yeah. Okay, so quite a bitty episode, bits and pieces and flashes of brilliance, but it really, really felt like it was saving itself for the last kind of 10 minutes, really. And it all kind of, for me, it all started off with this.
There are maybe 40 of the most important people in America, and you have just walked all around all evening telling them all that I'm going to get fired.
No, it was implied, lightly, as a little part of a tactical kind of joke.
Tactical joke.
A tactical kind of joke, yeah.
Tactical kind of joke. And then we get the impression that all throughout the party, everyone was kind of like making these asides. And then Lucas with his kind of like non-filter, just came out and said this.
You're kissing my ass.
No, I'm not kissing your ass, Lucas. You're too smart. You spotted a mile off.
Hey, I'm about to take a shit in your husband's mouth, and I'm pretty sure he's going to tell me it tastes like coco man.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
No, but seriously, it's a really, really nice place.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Who'll get to keep it in the divorce?
Greg laughing at just a little bit too loudly there. So, what did you make of the? I guess right at the beginning, one of the first scenes we saw Tom making breakfast, or rather Tom, the butler, making breakfast, and Tom taking the credit for it.
Yeah.
They've made up. There was discussion of like, oh, we'll just tell people we were on a break and it's all good.
Yeah.
They're clearly enjoying each other's company a lot, as the text messages said.
He was sexting while Greg fired all those people. She said, is your dick too broken after I wrote it for so long? And he's like, nope. Even when she's sexting him, she's sort of like, I've broken you. It's so deep. Anyway. And
the scorpion gift was weird, right? Do you think Tom meant that with any intentional malice?
No,
or if it was just like a subliminal thing? I think thought it was kind of funny.
I think a couple of things about the scorpion. I think first of all, when you have that kind of money, things mean nothing.
Well, the watch. Tom bought the watch for Logan in the
Tom bought the watch for Logan.
Yeah.
Connor bought like Churchill's dick or some artifact. You remember? There's all these kind of mummified, like whatever it was. I'm spitballing. There's no sentimentality to anything because nothing means anything to them, because nothing is on the scale. You know, you could buy a Greek island, half a Greek island, and it's like, okay, now what? You know. So I think gifting has always been like difficult for them. I think in terms of the actual like scorpion itself, I think Tom thinks he's being clever, and I think Shiv sees a scorpion and is just like, no, I get it, but like, why are you giving me this? This is the thing that is, because also it's not even her birthday, it's not an anniversary, so she's kind of like
a reconciliation gift.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you know, you look at the box, you look at the wrapping. I mean, this is hundreds of pounds, maybe more, thousands, right? It's like
thousands. It would
like
be,
it's like a paperweight.
Rare. It would have been the last of its kind scorpion, the last on Earth.
It's like a paperweight, right? Like you kind of just put it on. I just thought it was a really interesting way to communicate. Like, there's nothing he can get her. He can't even buy her like a Ralph Lauren jumpsuit because she's like, well, I have them. I have some. Or you don't know my size, or I wouldn't wear that. Or, you know, if he bought her, like, I know Tom is not as rich as these guys, but if he buys her a yacht, she's like, well, I could buy a yacht.
Yeah. Exactly.
What is you getting this for me doing? And, you know. But yeah, so I thought that was an interesting marital almost bliss in that they were sort of reconciled. But yeah, interesting to sort of compare though, like when everybody was upset about being fired at ATN, Tom was doing the crying, you know, eyes like, like that. And then when he finds out that he's on the chopping block, he's like, this is the worst thing anyone's done to anyone. But I think for Tom, he really thought he'd got into this upper echelon of society, and he got in through marriage, but he's also worked up the corporate ladder. And I think to find out that everyone there immediately sees him as the person that doesn't belong as really gets to him.
Yeah. Even Kendall and Rome were like, "Go, Tom. Yeah, we got your back, bro." And he was just like, "Oh, great." You know. What was his job? What was his job before? When we first met Tom, what did he do? Has he always been at a? No, was he not on cruises?
He was managing resorts south and central,
which means like,
so not even like all the resorts. Tom and Shiv, unexpectedly for me, are the sort of lifeblood of this season. They haven't been the focal point of the drama for quite a long time, but on this season, every episode there's a gut punch, and we got such a huge gut punch in this episode. They finally had the big row.
They cleared the air, Chris. Let's be honest. They were just clearing the air. It's like it was brutal, right?
Yeah, and he still doesn't know she's pregnant. I kept thinking, this is when she's gonna drop it.
Well, exactly. So this was the moment. Yeah, this was it.
I think you are incapable of love. And I think you are maybe not a good person to have children.
Well, that's not very nice to say, is it?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but you have hurt me more than you can possibly imagine.
And you took away the last 6 months I could have had with my dad.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. You sucked up to him and you cut me out.
It's not my fault that you didn't get his approval.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever cleared the air with Mr. Mandle, but it rarely unearths, it rarely picks a scab that deep, right?
I mean, Mr. Mandle meaning my dad, or?
No, Rob.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hasn't taken my name yet, but there's plenty of time for that, just in case he's listening. That conversation was harrowing.
Yeah.
And they got a lot off their chest. Now, the Shiv comment about, because of you, I didn't get to see my dad, I've never really thought of that as a big thing for her to be grappling with. But yeah,
I think that just came out of nowhere.
Well, I was trying to think, obviously she's spitballing, but like, it's been 3 months since the season 3 finale. Right?
Yeah.
It was a few months. So I'm kind of like, 6 months? That's come out of nowhere. But her point is that, yeah, she seems to really resent the fact that him dobbing on the kids in the season 3 finale is what meant she hasn't seen much of him.
Yeah.
He kind of says, the two things can happen simultaneously. You can be cut out of the company and your dad might not love you.
Well, he said, he went on and he said this, which I thought was really, really good. Hold on a sec. You can I don't know, listeners can tell I've worked out how to play clips on this now. This, for me, said it all.
You want to actually clear the air? Fine. You betrayed me.
You were going to see me get sent to fucking prison, Shiv! And then you fobbed me off with that fucking undrinkable wine, and you won't have my baby because you never even thought, honestly, you'd be with me more than like 4 fucking years.
I mean, you can't argue with any of that, to be fair.
No.
All of this argument, the mud slung from both sides was valid mud, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, we saw last season the stuff about prison. It was played as a joke, but legitimately, Shiv was like, you should go to jail. And I might not be here when you get back. And I think, but the repeated jabs about children were incredibly barbed. And Shiv still didn't drop the bomb that she's pregnant.
Exactly. But they really cut her. Like
they did.
She said, well, that's, she, all of the kind of like foul language and stuff that they were saying. When he said that, I don't think you're the right person to have children. She would, well, that's not a very nice thing to say.
Yeah,
is it?
she
really stung her.
Yeah, sometimes when she's hurt, she does speak like a child. Like this, that's not very nice. She gets into this really, like, she's almost stunned. She's too stunned to actually come out with anything clever or anything wounding. It's just, I can't believe you would say that to me. And obviously the layer of irony is we know she is currently pregnant and she may well have a child, and to bring a child into the world when someone has told that to you is horrifying. But it made me think that the child, it may never get mentioned. She may never tell anyone.
But this is what I said last week.
This is what you said last week. Yeah, exactly.
I think it's just going to be a cloud that will just leave us guessing. We'll be hoping for
and it's the permanent question mark is what will happen to that child and what kind of world are they going to be born into. The other thing that she brought up, which I sort of forgot, is that she said, you proposed to me when my father was dying, which was episode 2. They got unofficially engaged in episode 2 of the show.
In the hospital.
Which I've completely forgot.
Yeah, she wasn't happy about it at the time, was it? And even people were kind of, seem to remember like Kendall and Rome just like, what, now? Really? You're doing this now? It's like, it's a bit of a faux pas, isn't it? It's the same as getting engaged at someone else's wedding, isn't it?
Yeah. But, and I think part of us could maybe even say of Tom, you're no fool. Like, you knew to get in now because, like, Logan might be going.
Yeah.
Obviously we knew with the foresight Logan was going to be around for many years, but the argument was just some of the most incredible acting from those two. But I'm just constantly struck by the fact that the only like romantic relationship is not the most effective way to describe Tom and Shiv, but their relationship is the only one of its kind on the show. Willa and Connor maybe, but they're not really in the show as much. There's real stakes because you can walk away from this. You can walk away from the relationship in a way that you can't walk away from your family. And yet they are constantly drawn back to each other. And
yeah, well, they didn't even, they still stayed under the same roof.
They're still staying there tonight by all accounts, by the looks of things.
Yeah.
One question I have wasn't addressed in this episode. Who's looking after that poor dog while everyone's at the party?
It must have been in the crate, still in the kitchen, just like with maybe Greg was tasked with
so noisy,
slipping a bonio in every now and then. Maybe Oscar
and giving the dog a biscuit.
Yeah, maybe Oscar fed him an edible. Who knows?
I just thought that poor dog would be so noisy. They can get a bit stressed when there's a lot.
Well, maybe they moved everything into storage because I didn't see the iMac on the bedroom counter anywhere either.
I know. It's funny. It's funny. I think when we saw that earlier in the season, we were like, God, what a great bonkers townhouse. In this episode, because there was so many people, it looked so claustrophobic and tight and condensed. And,
yeah.
But, there was only like 40, 50 people in there, right? And it's like, I can get 30 people in this one-bedroom flat, and it's doable.
I think it's an interesting observation, actually, because when you're not rich and you have a party, you dream of hiring out a place.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine if we could like hire out the rooftop at yada yada.
Yeah, the Shard or whatever.
Yeah, and that's like a bit of a pipe dream. But then I've been invited to a few like rich people parties, and they always have them in their homes. It's utterly bizarre. And rather than like say, I've just rented out the Ivy for a night, or I've taken out the top floor of Shoreditch House and I've got the whole bowling alley, blah 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 blah. They have them in their house, and I think it's a real weird flex of intimacy, of fake intimacy.
Yeah. But
Where
also I
it's
think their relationship to their home is not the same as ours.
Yeah, but I've been to rich people's where that's not the case, where actually it's still their home, and their kids are kind of like just in the next room watching telly. And it's it's kind of weird. And they've got caterers in, and they've got all the rest, and it's a big old thing. Like, and it's just like, well, why have you done it here? This is really strange, because I wouldn't. My first thought would be, I'm not having all these people in my house.
No.
These aren't family. It's not like a family. It's not like a 40th
But also,
birthday,
it's a bit like, I guess when you're catering, when you have even just a cleaner coming in to fix it the next day.
Yeah.
It's a temporary setup that you can very
True.
quick. It's like an Etch-a-Sketch. You just wipe it, and then it's.
I thought
like,
that when Shiv and Tom were lying in bed, I was like, there must be so much mess there. Has someone? Is that all gone? That must be like the stress of having to wake up and deal with like
Cups
50 dirty champagne glasses
and
blocking the dishwasher.
And someone's the foil from the lid of the wine. Someone's put it in the sink, and I can't get it out. And yeah, I always get really. Oh my god, yeah. Well, when I have a house party, I'm always like, look, I've got a bin bag in the hall for empties, and then someone's just chucked it in the bin that has the food, and I'm like, oh, for goodness sake! Now the bin won't close, and now the door won't close on the bin cupboard, and you think, for goodness sake,
everyone out, everyone
get out, yeah.
Hopefully, your issues may be like appeased by what happens in episode 8, because I think it's just a set 2 for this one. Should we do our trailer watch? So we're going in now, watching the preview for
America Decides. That's the
information. It's like a bottle of fine wine. You save it for a special occasion, and then you smash someone's face in with it.
This could be the most important election in our lifetime.
I feel sick.
Oh, why? It's fun. It's only spicy because if my team wins, they're gonna shoot your team.
Give me some sugar, man. Maybe everyone voted for me. We don't know.
Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's cat, Tom. This is crazy.
We all want to stop Madsen, right?
Every vote must be counted. This is about the future of the country.
False flag.
You can't just say false flag every time you don't fucking agree with something.
Looks good.
Looks good. Looks tense. Looks like it's all gonna take place in the ATN building. By the looks of things.
It's really interesting that it seems very. People are on different sides. It feels like that's notable. That Shiv has backed. Oh my god, I'm Google this. What's the name of the left candidate?
Daniel Jimenez.
Yes, I'm sure he was mentioned last season as like maybe a Hispanic or a Mexican president-elect. That was all very exciting. I think, but I can't remember. Yeah, I think the politics stuff on Succession is hard. I think it's very hard when you're this late in the game to. But I think the show threads the needle very well, and I think the thing at the top of this episode where Rava was saying like, look, the things you're doing are having an impact on everyone around you.
Yeah,
you know, the show's good at that without making it about politics. So really excited for that.
There's some good glances from Kendall to Greg there as well across the newsroom. I don't know whether that was like an editing thing or not, or what was going on there. But
I do think these trailers are really well edited, and sometimes,
true.
They know how to
not to the true.
Yeah. But
let's see. Okay, 3 more. The end is in sight. We've got an election, we've got a funeral, and we've got a finale. That's not a bad trilogy of episodes to come, is it?
I can't wait.
Exciting times.
I'm really looking forward to the funeral. That's going to be really, really exciting.
There you go. A ray of sunshine. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Get in touch at Dragoncast_pod or email dragoncast@daftdoris.com. We are aware that we are woefully behind with our Thrones rewatch.
Yes.
You know, IRL has stuck a stick in the spokes, but we will get back onto it.
It's just been a bit of a week.
It's been a lot.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
But I hope you enjoy it, and we will see you. We will see you next week. Have a good one.
All right. Bye.